amber light lay soft across the still water, turning every quiet ripple into a thin seam of gold. Among the hanging willows, pale garments drifted on the evening air like sails that had forgotten the wind. The workshop waited in the roots and shade, open to the river and the slow sky. Lila came along the bank with her small cloth bag held close. She stepped between the trailing leaves and set her bag upon the low wooden bench. From it she drew a worn cloth tray, smoothed its corners flat, and began to tip out the day's found buttons. They spilled in soft clicks and little rolls. Cool edges caught the light. Quiet colors rested side by side: pearl gray, soft moss, the pale brown of river stones, a single moon-white circle. Lila arranged them with careful fingers, leaving small spaces between each one so that none felt crowded. Nearby, among the thick willow roots that reached into the water, Bram sat with his knees drawn up and a reed flute resting in his hands. He played a low tune that matched the river's unhurried pace. The notes moved like breath over still water, barely louder than the leaves. Lila counted the buttons once, touching each rim with the tip of a finger. She knew their number by heart. Then she sat back on her heels and listened while Bram's melody wandered and returned. The air smelled of damp wood and clean linen. Light thinned toward evening, and the garments above them stirred without sound. When she looked down again to count the tray a second time, several buttons were already gone. The cloth showed empty circles where they had been. Neither of them had touched the tray. Bram's hands had stayed on the flute. Lila's hands had rested in her lap. She leaned closer. The remaining buttons lay as she had left them, cool and quiet. The missing ones had left no trail, only open spaces that felt strangely calm. Lila did not speak at first. She only breathed and watched the empty places. Bram lowered the flute and let the last note fade. Together they looked at the tray, then at the hanging garments, then at the water that held the sky. The open air seemed full of unfinished waiting, as if something gentle and unfinished had passed between the roots and the pale cloth sails. Lila rested her palms on the empty spaces in the tray. The cloth felt warm from the late light. Beside her, Bram sat without playing, sharing the same quiet. They listened together to the soft lap of river water against the willow roots, and the evening held them there without hurry. Morning arrived without announcement. The amber of evening had thinned into a pale, even gold that lay along the water and the hanging cloth. Lila stirred and found the grove already awake in its quiet way. The garments among the willows moved with the lightest air, soft coats and open sleeves turning slowly like pale sails that had forgotten the wind. She rose and crossed the roots to look more closely. On a pale coat that had hung empty the night before, a familiar button now sat sewn neat and sure at the cuff. Another rested on a soft sleeve nearby, its quiet color catching the morning. A third gleamed low on a hem, stitched with tiny even loops that no hand of theirs had made. The missing buttons had found their places while the grove kept its own counsel. Lila touched one seam with a careful fingertip. The thread felt smooth and cool, as if it had always belonged there. Bram had taken up his reed again at a distance among the roots, and his soft notes drifted like a steady breath that did not ask for answers. She listened a moment, then turned back to the swaying cloth. From the cuff of the softest coat a single thin silver thread unspooled itself. It loosened with no hurry and drifted down toward the bank, catching what little light the morning held. It tugged gently at her attention, not with force but with the quiet insistence of something unfinished and kind. Curious and unafraid, Lila watched it slide between the willow stems and begin to follow the curve of the water. She glanced once toward Bram. His notes continued, low and even, a calm that stayed behind her like a held hand. Then she rose fully and stepped after the silver thread. It moved ahead of her along the damp earth of the bank, glinting and fading and glinting again. The air smelled of wet leaves and cool stone. Small pebbles pressed softly under her feet. The path bent with the river. Willows leaned closer here, their long green fingers brushing the surface. The thread slipped around the quiet bend and kept on, never snagging, never hurrying. Lila followed, leaving the open grove and the pale hanging sails a little farther behind with each careful step. The morning held its soft gold. Nothing pressed her forward except the thin bright line that seemed to know where it was going. She pauses where the path narrows, the silver thread still glinting ahead, resting a moment with the soft lap of river water against the willow roots. She drew a slow breath and stepped on. The silver thread guided her past a curtain of willow leaves that brushed her shoulders like cool green rain. Beyond them the bank opened into a small hidden cove, cupped by roots and pale stone. The water here was clear and shallow, still enough to hold the sky in soft pieces. Unfinished clothes floated upright in that quiet water. Hems and collars barely stirred. A half-made travel coat drifted near the center, its empty buttonholes open to the light. Near it waited a simple vest of soft gray wool, and farther out a child's cloak with one sleeve still unsewn. They stood as if standing on the riverbed itself, weightless and calm. Lila stepped carefully among the submerged roots. The cool water kissed her ankles. Pebbles shifted gently under her soles. The silver thread loosened and sank without a sound, its work finished. She stood very still and watched. A spare bone button lay on a flat stone at the water's edge, pale as morning milk. The half-made travel coat began to drift closer, unhurried. Its cloth moved with the faintest current. When it reached the stone it paused. One empty fastening settled against the button as if tasting the fit. Then the coat eased back a little and rested, satisfied, the button resting now in its proper place though no hand had sewn it. Other garments waited in a loose circle. Sleeves hung open. Each held a small space where a fastening ought to be. A soft linen shirt turned slightly toward a wooden toggle half buried in moss. A rain cape with frayed edges drifted near a smooth horn button that gleamed dully under the surface. None hurried. Each seemed to choose in its own quiet time. Lila felt no fear, only a warm and careful wonder. The air smelled of clean water and crushed mint from the bank. Light filtered through the willows in slow green coins that slid across the floating cloth. She watched a moment longer as the vest eased nearer a tiny mother-of-pearl disc, then stopped short as though deciding the match was not yet right. She found a mossy ledge at the cove's edge and Saturday. The moss was thick and cool beneath her palms. Her feet stayed in the shallows where the water barely moved. Around her the unfinished clothes kept their gentle circle, sleeves open, waiting without demand. She let her shoulders soften and rested, letting the soft lap of river water against the willow roots answer her quiet wonder. A travel coat drifted first. Its empty buttonhole brushed a smooth bone disc on a flat stone, then drew the fastening home with a small sigh of cloth, as if it remembered a long road still ahead. The sleeves settled. The water held it gently. Next came a rain cape, then a soft vest. One by one the unfinished garments eased nearer the stones. Each chose without hurry. A horn button sank into place. A tiny mother-of-pearl disc found a collar and stayed. Cloth whispered as threads seemed to close of their own accord. The circle grew quieter, more complete. Lila watched from the mossy ledge. In her palm she found a bright mother-of-pearl button she had not noticed before. It felt cool and luminous, almost weightless. She offered it to an open sleeve that floated close. The sleeve accepted the button for a breath, then let it slip free. The disc rolled cool and shining back into her palm. She tried again with a waiting collar. The button rested there a moment, catching green light, then loosened and returned to her hand. A child's soft cuff drifted near. She placed the luminous button carefully against the small opening. Once more it slipped away and lay cool in her palm, refusing to stay. Footsteps sounded soft along the bank. Bram came into the cove with his reed flute quiet in his hands. He did not speak at first. He simply stood among the roots and looked at the floating clothes, at the fastened buttons, at the one that would not hold. Together they found a small unfinished travel pouch drifting near the shallows. Its flap waited open. Lila set the luminous button against the pouch's empty place. Bram steadied the cloth with careful fingers. The button rested, then slid free again and rolled back into Lila's open hand, cool and bright as before. They sat side by side on the thick moss. The remaining garments finished their quiet choosing. Lila closed her fingers loosely around the stubborn button. After a time it began to warm against her skin, no longer cool. Bram rested his flute across his knees. Neither of them spoke. They simply watched the still water and the last pale sleeves settling into place. The button warmed again in Lila's hand. Beside her Bram breathed slow and even. Around them the soft lap of river water against the willow roots kept steady time. Lila watched the completed coats drift outward from the cove. One by one they rose through the clear shallows, water beading and falling from their hems in quiet silver drops. The cloth no longer floated upright. It lifted itself toward the outer willows where the branches leaned low and patient. Each garment settled among the leaves as if it had always known the place. Pale sleeves hung soft as sails once more. Collars rested open to the mild air. The fastened buttons caught the late light and held it gently, neither bright nor dull. Bram shifted on the moss so he could see better. His flute lay quiet across his knees. Lila kept the luminous button loose in her palm. It no longer rolled away. It simply stayed, warm now, matching the slow heat of her own skin. She looked from the hanging coats to the empty stones where other buttons had waited earlier, then back to the water that mirrored the sky in unbroken calm. Understanding came without hurry, the way evening color deepens on still surfaces. The river had been mending all along. It gathered unfinished garments and the buttons that belonged to roads not yet walked, to weather not yet felt, to journeys people had not begun to name. Each pairing was quiet and exact. A bone button found the travel coat that would need it when the air turned cool. A mother-of-pearl disc found the cuff that would close against morning mist still months away. Nothing was wasted. Nothing was rushed. The soft lap of river water against the willow roots marked the work the way a breath marks rest. Lila turned the warm button once between her fingers. Its refusal had never been stubbornness. It had rolled home to her again and again because her own path, walking the banks, noticing what is stray and unfinished, carrying small things until they find their place, had not yet asked for a companion fastening. The button waited for the garment of that life, the one still forming around the simple work she already loved. She felt the knowledge settle low and kind inside her chest, no heavier than the cloth of a well-made sleeve. Bram lifted the reed flute. He played 3 soft notes, spaced like stepping stones across shallow water. The sound agreed without words. It drifted out across the cove and returned thinner, gentler, until it became part of the river's own low voice. Lila closed her fingers more fully around the button. It rested quiet now, neither cool nor restless, simply present. The last questions of the earlier night loosened and fell away. What had vanished from the tray, what had been stitched while no one watched, what had chosen and what had refused, all of it resolved into the same clear, kind answer. The river mended for journeys still unchosen. This button waited for Lila. They remained side by side on the thick moss. The button lay quiet in her palm. Around them the soft lap of river water against the willow roots kept steady time. Lila drew a short length of soft cloth from her pocket and worked it between her fingers until it became a tiny loop, no larger than a dewdrop. She threaded her needle with quiet care and stitched the luminous button through the loop so that it could hang free. Each slow pull of thread settled the button against the cloth of her sash, where it rested like a small, chosen moon. When she tied the final knot, the button stayed. It no longer rolled away. It simply hung there, warm from her hands, ready for whatever road might one day ask for it. Around the cove the finished garments had already drifted outward. They hung among the outer willows now, complete and still, sleeves quiet, collars neat. The half-made travel coat no longer waited. The child's soft cuff no longer held an empty space. Everything that needed fastening had found its place. The clear water smoothed itself until the surface held only the softest mirror of sky. The thin silver thread that had led her here loosened its shine and dissolved into ordinary light trembling on the ripples. Nothing tugged at her attention any longer. The cove felt finished, the way a well-told story feels finished. Bram rose first. He offered his hand without words, and Lila took it. Together they walked the gentle bank back toward the workshop, their steps unhurried on the moss and root. The button swung lightly against her side with each quiet stride, a companion now rather than a mystery. At the willow grove the pale garments still hung like sails among the branches, though many more were complete. Bram set the kettle over the small warm stones. Soon the steam rose in soft curls that drifted upward the way those same sails might drift in a kinder wind. He poured 2 cups and placed one beside her. They sat once more among the thick roots. The tea smelled faintly of honey and river mint. Its warmth traveled slowly through their hands and into their chests. Amber light folded itself across the water until the whole river lay gold and calm. Lila's breathing lengthened. Bram's breathing matched it. The button rested against her sash, quiet and certain. Around them the soft lap of river water against the willow roots kept its endless, gentle time, carrying every finished thing toward rest. And so the grove held them in warm tea and folded gold while the river whispered them softly all the way toward sleep.